Welcome to the class. So yesterday we covered this platform scripting, and today we're going to cover this migration and integration. Right? Now, what do you mean by the word migration, or what do you mean by the word integration? Right? A basic language question. When I say migration, which means I am migrating from some place to another place, right? That's the whole concept of migration. So under that, when I say this statement in context of ServiceNow, it means that if I have done some changes in my sub-production environment, dev environment or test environment or UAT environment, and I want to move those changes to higher environments, I mean from dev to test, test to UAT, UAT to prod, then I need to follow a certain procedure. Now, luckily, ServiceNow has provided us that option already, that we can capture all those changes in a particular group. We can track them properly, and that group as it is can be moved from one instance to another. So this is how any migration work happens in ServiceNow, which means that whenever I want to make any enhancements in system, the first thing I do is I do that change in the dev environment. I capture that change in a table, or you can say there is something called update set, which is a feature in ServiceNow. The whole purpose of that feature is to track all those things which you have actually done. So whatever changes you're doing, you can track all of those changes in that update set thing. So what happens after that is, for example, this is the one I'm talking about. So all your things, whatever you have done as a change, will be captured in that update set, that you can kind of make a copy. You can export that record. It will be an XML file. You can export that record in your desktop or anywhere locally, wherever you want to. And once you're ready to move those changes, after you've done the testing, everything has been done. Once you're ready to move those changes to higher environments, then you move the same update set from dev to test, then test to UAT, and then UAT to prod. So this is called as update set movement, which captures your configuration changes and your customizations, whatever you've done. So nobody is expected to make any enhancements directly in production environment. That is not the right release management or change management process. So here also we are using a step-by-step change and release management process, where we are doing that properly in sub-production environments. And then one by one, we are moving it from one to another, testing it thoroughly, fixing all those issues, and then moving it later to production environment. That process is called as update set movement, and that is also called as migration. So in terms of, as I said, in context of ServiceNow, when I say the word migration, it simply means that it is something that you are making some changes in your dev environment or a test environment, and you're making them you're promoting them further to the higher environments. Now, what is more important to understand here? What is it that gets captured? See, how part I'll tell in some time, that how do you do that? We will cover that part, of course. Before that, the question is, what is it that gets captured in update set, and what is it that does not get captured in update set? Because this is where most of the administrators and developers go wrong. They kind of learn it by experience, but if you know upfront that this is what gets captured versus this is not what does not get captured, then you can make an informed decision, that you will know upfront that, okay, these things will be moved, these things will not be moved. So I have to move these things manually using some other method, but not by update set. This is how you do it, right? Now, let's understand those things. So all your configurations and customizations, when I say that, which means your business rules, your client scripts, your UI policies, data policies, your forms, layouts, form sections, your reports, your definitions, your tables, your views, roles, published flows, and anything where you are changing any configuration or you're writing a customization using a script. Overall, the concept is this, right? That you are making a configuration level change, or you are doing some kind of customization using some scripts. All of that will be captured in the update set, and it can be moved as it is from one to another environment. But what does not get moved is an important question. It is more important, to be honest, because you will need to know that this is something which does not get moved, and I have to move it manually using some other method. So any of your whatever new data records you have created in your development environment. So for example, you made a change, and based on that change, you are creating some records in system to test that change. For example, if I say change the label of priority from priority to priority severity, for example. So I will raise a new record to just check it whether it has happened or not. But those or any of those new records, any of those records, they do not get moved. If you modify any records based on those changes, they will also not get moved. So any records, data records, incident, problem, changes, all those numbers which we have seen all the time, they will never be moved. Your task records will not be moved. You make a change in your CI, will never be moved. Any new user creation, any new group creation will not be moved. Any schedules which you've created in ServiceNow that, okay, if this happens, do it this time. So for example, every night 1 a.m. I want to run the scheduled job to fetch data from HR directory. All of that will not be moved. Any dashboards will not be moved. In fact, even in the report section, you will not be able to move the entire report. Only the configuration part will be moved. For example, if you remember when we were talking about reports, right? Then what will be moved? Let me just show you that. So if I come here and if I show you any report, for example, your configuration will move, which means there will be a report created in system which says, that, okay, this is the name of the report, sys ID of the report. So if you remember, we talked about it already that every record in ServiceNow has a sys ID, which is unique in nature. So the movement happened at the sys ID level. So if you're making any change, so your sys ID has to be same in your target instance as well as your main instance. So what happens generally, when you do a major upgrade, right? Especially, for example, if you do an upgrade from Paris to San Diego, at that time, you generally clone your system. Clone your system means you create a copy of your production system into your dev system. Why do you do that? Because you want to ensure that all those sys IDs of the records in my production system remain same in development, because whatever change I'm going to do on that particular sys ID. So when you're doing it from user interface, you do not realize that change is happening at a sys ID level, but in the backend, it happens at sys ID level. So if there is anything new in production, which was not in development environment, you will face a problem while moving the update set. So it has to be very, very clear. You should move an update set only after cloning from production to dev. I'm talking only about those cases that we're doing upgrades like version to version upgrade, right? Normal release cycle. So every month you have a release, every 2 weeks you have a release in system. For that, you don't need to clone, you don't need to do anything. You just need to move it updated, because it is expected that you are doing an incremental change, and whatever changes you've done in dev, which have been tested successfully in all the environments, are now moved to production. So that is why those things remain intact. Those things do not have an issue. So when I talk about data, so all of these things which you're defining here, right? All of this will be there. Your type, your configurations, your styles, but the underlying data will not be moved. So if you have a different data in dev, it will not be moved in production or any further environment. So whatever data is here will be moved accordingly. So you'll have to see that, okay, did that take, so whenever you are migrating reports, you just ensure that, okay, all of the configurations have been moved. Do I have the underlying data there in terms of making sure that report works fine. Similarly, your dashboards do not move. So if you remember, this is what I said, dashboard. So people generally think that, okay, I have moved the update set, and even then the dashboard is not moving. So in that case, especially for dashboard movements, there is a special thing which have to be taken care of. Okay, just give me one second. Right, so this is where all of these things will be moved, but not the underlying data. It will not be moved, right? So when I talk about a dashboard, for example, that how do you generally, a dashboard does not get automatically, moved from update set. So there is a way you can do some part of it, not the complete part, to be honest. So this is where you go to the dashboard, for example, and you click on, okay, let the dashboard get loaded first. It is loaded now, or it is still loaded? So this is very important to understand what does not get moved, because if you do not know that, then you'll assume that, okay, everything will be moved, so I am all sorted. No, all this data does not get moved. No data changes get moved, only configuration. For example, if I do I'll show you that in some time. So I have to click on launch dependency assessment. This is the first step. Once I click here, for example, if I am moving this one, I will click on this record info. I'll open the record and I will unload this dashboard. So the moment I unload this dashboard, this is where you can see all of these things are happening. So portal pages, all those canvas settings, everything, permissions, everything will be unloaded. And then you can move the configuration part. Again, the entire dashboard, the underlying data will not move here, right? So only the configuration part will move, and then you have to see in system, okay, what is working versus what is not working. So whenever you're doing a testing after any release, you should always see what is working versus what is not working. Now, we will talk about, so I think I just talked about migration, which in terms of that, if you are having a monthly release or a weekly release or whatever your release cycle is, as long as you're not upgrading your instance. When I say upgrading, means version change, like Paris to Quebec, Quebec to Rome, Rome to San Diego. So that is a bigger exercise and that takes time because you need to take certain things into consideration before doing that. So we will talk about it towards the end of the session because it is not a part of CSA, but I thought to just give you some idea around it before we wrap up today. But having said that, let me make you understand how does at least the main normal release cycle work. How do you create an update set? How do you export it, import it, right? Now, for example, if I go here, first of all, I have to go here in developer section. I have to click show update set picker in header. You see, there is something called application global already. So that is why there is a concept of show application picker in header. But right now, we're not focusing on application. We will see it tomorrow. We're just focusing on show update set picker in header, which means now I will know which update set I'm working on. So if you see this, there was this box was not there earlier. This box was not there earlier. It is called as default global. So as a part of best practice, you should not be creating anything in default global because whatever you're doing any which ways all the time in system, it gets captured in default global. So we just want to keep it. We just want to avoid it. We don't want to do any kind of movements with the help of default global, right? You should not. You should never do it. And this is where it will tell you view your current update set. So you can just click here and it will tell you view current update set. It will show you that my current update set is default. So I don't want to do anything in this set. Whenever I'm making a change, I have to create a new set. So what I'll do for that, right? I'll go here called as update set. And I'll click here, I'll click on local update set, which means can you see this? There are so many applications apart from global, which I have in my instance, customer service, you have VTV, a lot of other applications there. For that, every single application has a default set. And right now we are under default global, we are under this one. And we never move these default sets from any environment to any environment because this is not the right thing to do because it captures a lot of things and you don't want to capture so many things when you move the update set. So as a part of best practice, it is recommended to have not more than 100 changes in an update set while moving it because then it will become difficult to review them. And when you can try to commit that update set in system, it might have issues also. It might have errors, which is a very general phenomenon. It happens quite frequently. If you have made any mistakes, for example, the kind of errors you will see when you're committing the update set is there is a latest update in production, then dev. That happens when something you have changed directly in production, which that is why you should never do any update in production directly, right? Especially in terms of configuration customizations. So that is highly restricted. You should not do that. So because if you do that, then if it finds a newer record, it will override the old one, which means whatever changes you've done in dev, it will not be picking that change. It will be picking the change which has been done most recently. So most of the time, for example, if 10 people are working on the same instance in their own update sets, you have an updated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 6 people or 10 people are working on it. If 2 or 3 of them are working on the same artifact, for example, incident form, right? And for example, you have made a change in the form and somebody else has made a change in the form and both of them are conflicting. In that case also, the latest change will override the previous change. So it is very important. That is why they kind of segregate the work that nobody should be working on conflicting things. Okay, so that one person is working on one thing so that there is no problem with the update set movement because at the time when you actually do the release, you tend to get into problems and it becomes really difficult to troubleshoot them at that point of time because you do not know what is happening in the backend. who's working on what. So that is why it has to be very disciplined exercise, right? And when I should, so now, for example, when you create a new update set, what happens? I'm creating update set, for example, I'm saying ServiceNow training update set 1. It is in progress right now. Release date, maybe I have to release it on after 2 weeks, right? I can put it here 31. I'll tell you, I'll write here just demo changes for training purposes. So whenever you are doing creating an update set for yourself, you should always ensure that it includes that description, that whatever you're working on. So for example, generally people work on some stories, right? Some tasks in Jira or some other system, for example, any system where they're tracking their development stories. So you should be writing at least the number of those stories here, that for this story, or you have a sprint cycle there, you should put that sprint cycle here. This sprint cycle, this filter, I am working on all these 5 stories. This becomes quite easy for you to recognize that whatever changes you've made are relevant. Nobody else is conflicting with those changes. This is where these things look very easy to eyes, but these are really very important when you do it in real life. You should always write whatever changes you are planning to do. So if I click, there are 2 options. One is submit and make current. So if I submit it, it will not become my current update set. I'll still be in default global set. So if you're making a change as of now, right now, you should always do this, submit and make current, which means your current update set will be, see the change telling you it has been changed to ServiceNow training update set global. Now see this, that's been changed now, right? Now, whatever change I'll do in this particular system, it will always, for example, let me go to incident form. And I'm coming here, I'm opening an incident. We'll just do a very simple change and not a data level change. So when I say data level change, whatever you fill in these records is not something I'm interested in. This is not a change. This is just data, right? I'm saying when I move the values of this one, right? If I change the reference qualifiers for this one, if I change any name here, if I make this field a mandatory field, for example, right? Let's see this. Configure dictionary. Right. I will make this mandatory, for example, just for now time being, and I save it. So whatever, this is a config level change, that I am changing the behavior of the field itself. I am changing the label of the field itself, right? I can do anything there now. Now, if I see this, I'll show you that this is becoming mandatory, right? Now you will go back to your local update sets with whatever you've created, and you will see whether this change has been captured there or not. So let's see this. This is my update set, right? And this is the change I have done. I've made a field called description. I've taken insert update action here. Now this will be moved in my next instance when I actually migrate. This is where you ensure that whatever changes you've done have already been captured in this particular thing. So you can see here as well that, okay, what change was done, for example. You can click on this, you can see this here. Open record. You don't have to see the entire thing, then you will understand that, okay, you have made it mandatory. So that is why there is a change here, and you know it for a matter of fact that it is mandatory now, right? Now, once I have captured this, now what is the second step? Second step is that I have to mark it complete, because, for example, if I were not to make any further changes in the system, this is the only change I have to capture. This is for demonstration purposes. Of course, when you do it in real life, you'll have to do, I mean, you generally have 20 to 50 changes or maybe 100 changes, depending on the number of stories you have, depending on the complications of changes you have, right? So all of that. So for example, on that same form, I am changing the layout. Let me do some more things. Let me see if it works out for you. If I go here and if I come here, right? And if I say on this form, I'm trying to say change something else. I'm saying configure form design, maybe, and I'm adding just one field. You should always keep that open in one tab and see that whatever changes you're making, it is actually, getting impacted actually, right? For example, if I just want to do business duration, just like that myself, right? If I save it, and I close it, I go back to the form, reload the form. You see a field called business duration, right? Now go back to this update set which you've created. You're here on local update sets, you're going back. See, the second change has been done. Form layout. That was previous change was the dictionary level where I actually configured dictionary of the field. In this case, I am changing the form layout of the field of the table called incident. And that is what I've captured here automatically. Now, the next step is once you are sure that you have made all the changes, you have also reviewed that whatever changes you've done have been captured in this update set. Then you just go here, make it complete. Save. Do not click on update, just save it. Okay, which means it is closed. Now nobody can make any change in this update set. So by default, your current update set will be changed to default global because this update set is closed. Nobody can make any changes here. You can also back out from this. You don't want to commit this, fair enough, back out from here. The next step, the next logical step is whatever configurations you've done, you export back to an XML. This is where your XML file is. It is in my download section. You always should see that it should start with this sys remote update set and then a sys ID for that set. This is where you have captured updates in your update set. You have completed the update set. You have now exported the XML. Now what happens? Now, of course, I don't have a second instance where I can migrate that update set to, but I can just show you, for example, assume that this is a different instance where I need to update the same update set. Then I'll have to go to retrieved update sets. In the target instance, I have to go to retrieved update set instead of local update sets because local update set was only in the source instance where I am creating a set, I am capturing my information. Now, if I were to go to a different instance and I have to import this, I'll go here, retrieved update sets, and I'll click here, import update set from XML. Now I click here, I'll go here and I'll select this file, whatever was there just now, right? This file. I will not do it right now because there is no point of migrating from one same instance to same instance. That does not make any sense, right? I'm just telling the option. I'm just telling you the option that how do you do that actually. So once you have done it, now you want to move the same change test. You have to select the same update set, click on open. It will import this record, and the file will be. Let's see that what happens now. I think I might get some error, but then I just want to show you some process after that also. So if I click here, I click on upload. This is there. Now it is here, right? So this update set has been retrieved in my remote instance. When I say remote instance, I'm talking about that instance where I am actually making a change. Now it says preview update set. So before committing this update set, you always preview it. So you can see that these are two things which have been changed. I will just see preview update set. I'll see, is there a problem? And it will run its own health check. It says success, all good, no problems, nothing, no issues. Then you click on commit. I'll not click on commit update set because it will create a problem unnecessarily because it is the same change I have done in the system. Source and target are same right now for me. But this is where you do this step called commit update set. And then once you do that, then all your configurations have been moved, and then you do your testing immediately. Okay, whatever changes I have done in my dev, are those changes reflected in the user interface for the test environment also. This is a whole cycle which we have to follow every time we are doing a change in our system. That you do that change in dev environment, first step, you create, and how do you do that? You track that change in an update set, create a local update set, ensure that all of the changes have been captured there. It will not capture any data level changes. We know that already. Then we export it to XML. We go to the target instance. We go to retrieved update sets. We click on import file. and we preview the update set, whatever has been done. So whatever errors are here, it will come all over, all the errors will come here itself. It will show you the errors here, right? So right now there is no collisions, no errors, nothing. So that is why it is not showing you anything. And then you commit an update set and then you test it. This is how general update set cycle works in ServiceNow. This is how you move configuration changes from one instance to another. And it is very important that you are disciplined into this, because most of the people who are a little careless in nature, they generally face problems when they actually commit their sets because they have not taken care of some conflicts. Or this is one general problem. Second general problem is sometimes people even do not change this to their local update set. So whenever you are as a developer or as an admin, if you're changing anything in system and which you want to capture is an important thing, which means you're changing something based on a development or an enhancement story, not just any record you're changing, not for that. You must ensure that this is enabled from here. Second, that you have selected the right update set in which you're making changes. Maybe there may be a chance where you have multiple update sets here itself. Because in a bigger instance for a bigger company, you might have 10, 20 people working on development the same time, the same instance. You might have 10 different, you are a developer, you are an administrator. So you have rights to see everything. You have right to see all the updates which are in progress right now. But you need to ensure that as an individual, whatever changes you are responsible for, you are doing it in your own update set and select that update set here and then only track it and then only submit it. This is how the entire update set cycle works. Any question on this concept of migration of information configurations and from one instance to another? Any questions there?
No, Alok, it's clear.
Perfect. So this is where the update set things happen, right? Now there's a second thing called integration hub. Now that is a very small thing. So I'll just tell you, right? What is an integration hub? So integration hub is a hub which contains spokes from multiple different applications, third-party applications, with which you want to integrate ServiceNow. So generally what happens is, ServiceNow is a service management system. Apart from that, you have a lot of systems in any enterprise. You might have a Microsoft Teams, you have Zoom, you have some calendar, Outlook calendar, so there are always a lot of use cases to integrate different systems. And this is the need of the hour. If you do not integrate different systems together, you are bound to fail, or you're not going to achieve objective, because systems working in silos do not help any enterprises. So it is very, very important that your ServiceNow integration, whenever you do the real life project, it will always be a case that you will have to integrate ServiceNow with something for sure. For multiple things, for example, there is a third-party incident management system. You want to integrate that to this, or your CMDB tables, right? Data for servers, data for network devices, data for databases. So many tables are there. You might not be discovering all of them in ServiceNow, or you forget about discovering it. For example, you were to import that data, but you are supposed to import that data from some other system real time or on a scheduled basis, rather than importing using Excel. There are multiple options in ServiceNow by which you can integrate ServiceNow with different platforms on a scheduled level, on a real-time level, or whatever you want to do. It completely depends on us. So this is where you use some. So there are out-of-the-box capabilities in ServiceNow, which, if you remember, we talked about it earlier. You have REST API, you have LDAP, you have JDBC, you have XML, you have JSON, you have SOAP. You have so many things, so many technologies which allow you to integrate with different systems, third-party systems. However, in ServiceNow itself, there is some concept of integration hub, which allows you to directly link with those systems, because ServiceNow itself offers you a lot of integrations out of the box. However, you will have to purchase them. For example, for this part in terms of purchasing, right? Let me just tell you that quickly. Right. This is that table which tells you that there are so many subscription packages. For example, you might not get all the kind of integrations that are available in ServiceNow just with your basic edition. So you have 4 types of editions in ServiceNow: standard, starter, standard, professional, enterprise. Now, all of them have a different thing. that, okay, this one, build your own integrations. You are not having, you just have payload builder step, retry policies, remote tables, but you do not have protocols also are there. SOAP, step, REST, step, open API support. Now here you have automate developer operations. This is where for information about spokes included in each subscription. So when I say spokes, this is where I was talking about that which scopes, which third-party tools are allowed to be integrated automatically using ServiceNow, Microsoft Teams or Slack or CI/CD or Docker, Jenkins, all those kind of tools which you have, maybe QTP also in that case, Selenium. So whatever you want to integrate, you can integrate depending on whatever you are subscribed to. So it is not a free thing, it is a paid thing. And depending on whatever you're looking for, you just see that, okay, what I am subscribed for, and this is where you can see, for example, which all spokes are included. So you can see this, right? In case of Starter Hub, you have so many spokes. You have a spoke for GetExchange, WebEx Meetings, CI/CD, Google Hangouts, GoTo, Looker, Microsoft Teams, Graph API, so many in case of spokes. And these are the protocols, REST, SOAP, ZIP, these are features. This is where you can see the entire thing. Professional, you have so many. So of course, when you say professional, which means these are already there. In addition to these, you have these many, so many. So the point I'm trying to make is either you create a new integration completely from scratch, which will take its own time and effort, and you might go wrong as well because you're doing it as per your knowledge. If you're using something which is officially allowed, which is already there, then it does not require you to do any customization. Your lot of scripting efforts will be saved because you can use them as it is. It can connect to two systems seamlessly. But again, it has a price. So of course, it depends on organizations, whatever they want to subscribe to. If they have a very strong need of, kind of integrating with a lot of tools which are in professional edition, then they might go with it. And then they just want to buy this edition, and they will be by default allowed to use these spokes for their integration purposes. So this is professional. This is your enterprise, and in this professional you also have orchestration. You have enterprise. There's so many in enterprise. You have, then I think that is the highest level right now. So just see this. A spoke is a predefined action flow and or integration for connecting or automating third-party systems or processes within Flow Designer. So all that automation thing, if you remember, we talked about earlier. Integration hub is just an interface for you in terms of selecting what you want. But the real automation you will do always using Flow Designer. When you do that automation using Flow Designer, this is where you use that third-party hub. If you remember, when we were creating an action on that day in the Flow Designer part, wait. These are by default spokes we have available, right? Docker, AD, Microsoft AD, IBM servers. This is something which is in my instance also. There are 4 more here, right? Now, if I were to, for example, go here and if I were to create a new, if you remember on that day also, when we were looking into it, it shows you option. Form not found. Okay. Maybe I have to open something. Just right. So if you remember here, when we were talking about, we had something. Not this one. We had some integration hubs, spokes here, right? If you remember on that day, when we were talking about. We had some integration hubs here. We'll find out where, yeah, these are the spokes. So if I enable any of those integration hub, I can find out those third-party spokes, and then I can, for example, Microsoft AD. Now, whatever I'm doing here will happen directly in Microsoft Active Directory. Whatever I'm doing here will directly happen in SCCM. This is where you use Flow Designer to connect, to use a particular spoke of integration hub, and then you write the automation, and then you select. Because it is already there, that is why I don't have to create so many actions. Otherwise, just imagine the fact that if you're not using this inbuilt spoke, then you would have to create so many actions, so many things in your target system also, as well as in the source system, to do a push, and there you do a pull, or whatever the mechanism is, push or pull. The idea is you'll have to create so many actions, so many logics. Now, all of that will happen automatically. This is where you use the power of integration hub. For CSA course, we just need to understand this concept that why is it used, where is it used, and what are the different editions under which we can buy integration hubs. We don't need to actually do an integration right now in the system. This is what you can see. You can create a computer, you can create a lot of things you can do. Microsoft Teams, see this. You can post a message, you can post incident details, problems. So this is a Teams, everybody knows what is Teams, right? You can post all those information. So for example, you have a use case where you say, whenever there is a P1 or a P2 incident, immediately post that information in this particular Teams channel. You can do it from here. High risk change, you can do it from here. So that is where the real integration happens. And that is where the real automation, or I would say transformation, digitization. So you must have heard this thing, right? Digital, every company is going digital. So there is a concept of digital transformation everywhere. But this is where you do digital transformation by leveraging all these automation, optimization, machine learning, AI integrations, a lot of things you have to do to achieve that particular objective. Now, and this system, for example, ServiceNow in this case, is allowing us to use that automation, power of optimization, power of integration, power of transformation. Right? This is what the whole idea is. So this is where you use integration hub. Depending on the subscription, you can select that particular subscription, whatever, spoke, whatever. So these are all spokes here. Wherever you see now, which means it is in ServiceNow itself. So it is not a third-party system. Wherever it is a third-party system, you have a different interface icon here. So it is Slack icon, it is Teams icon, it is SCCM icon, it is AD icon, for example. Right? These are all AWS, for example. So you have all of these things also. That is the whole purpose of, as I said, integration hub. Any questions on integration hub?
No.
Okay. Great. Right. Just a minute. Okay. Ignore it for now. So, yeah, one more thing. That if you remember, I was talking about that migration we talked about. So when I talked about upgrade, when I say upgrade, I'm talking about from one version to another. This is a major upgrade, which happens twice a year by ServiceNow, and you generally also do twice a year. I mean, you can do that. For example, they have released something. They have released a version now, and after 2 or 3 months, you want to upgrade it in your instance. That is how generally every company works, unless it is highly customized. They have high dependencies on something else, and then they don't do it. Otherwise, a normal organization does that. Now, this is where I was saying some time back that when you do an upgrade, the first thing you do is you clone your production environment to your dev environment, so that everything, whatever is in production, including your system properties, including everything, remain intact in dev also. Secondly, you take a backup of a production environment somewhere else. You can ask for a local instance from there, temporary instance from there, or you have an additional instance, just take a backup of a production environment. So something goes wrong, you can just revert it. Then, how do you prepare for it? So first of all, this is not something which I have done from my side, right? It is done from my side, which I have done the upgrades multiple times, but this is a checklist which ServiceNow directly offers. So I have not created it myself, right? So you go in docs of ServiceNow, you just search their ServiceNow upgrade checklist, you'll find it. ServiceNow upgrade planning checklist. So this is where I'm trying to enable you to use system, to use those authentic sources wherever they are available publicly, officially. So this is officially available, free of cost, publicly available in docs of ServiceNow. You search ServiceNow upgrade planning checklist, you'll get it. Once you get it, then I'll not go into all of these points because they're quite granular in nature. But then the idea I'm trying to make here is that I'll just tell you at a high level that what all things do you need to take care of. You need to take care of release notes, because every new release, I think this is for any product, right? For any product, whenever, even if you're using QTP or you're using Mac or you're using load runner or whatever, they'll always have a new version change, and for every single version change, they'll have a release note. You'll have to read that release note to understand what all changes they're talking about, what all changes are applicable to me, what all changes are like that, which are quick wins for my end users. That okay, if I upgrade this, this is a very interesting change. Or maybe a patch fix they have done based on your issues, which is fixing all of their problems, for example, most of the problems. You will always want to do that, right? So this is where the most important thing is read the release notes and plan upgrade. Understand which features do you want them to be available on day one, and how do you want to show them one by one feature, right? Okay, maybe on day one you have enabled only 1 or 2 features. After 10 days or 15 days, you're enabling 2 or 3 more features, because you just don't want to bombard them with so many things quickly. They might be confused, they might be overwhelmed, and you might need to do some kind of configurations also to enable those features. It is not that by default you just upgrade and features are available. That does not work some all the time, right? So you might need to do some changes in system in the backend to ensure that you have tested it properly, and then only you release it. Now you read the release notes, then you plan upgrade, then you do upgrade in dev instances. That is the first thing, if you remember, we just talked about. You do instance and dev upgrade, dev instance. You ensure that any web browser changes have been made. For example, the latest version will tell you, okay, I do not work on IE9, or I do not work on this so-and-so version of Chrome and Mozilla Firefox. Then you need to ensure that your organization is equipped with the latest version, and you will not face this problem from client side, right? You need to do the cloning, which I talked about. You need to upgrade your dev environment. And the biggest, if you ask me, from my personal experience, the biggest thing you need to take care in any upgrade is the testing part. As long as you have decided your testing strategy, you're clear about a scope. So all your critical business flows should be tested. So there are cases when, because of upgrade, you might face into some issues which were working fine before and now not working, because you might have done its configuration differently, and now this configuration is not supported in the latest release. So I would always recommend that negative testing is more important than positive testing while in upgrade process. And it is for every platform. Forget about ServiceNow. I've done upgrades for like 10 plus tools in my career. And the logic, the concept, the approach remains same. That first of all, you ensure that nothing is breaking whatever is working. That is the most important. New features you can do little later. That is not on top priority. Top priority is nothing is failing. And so all your critical business flows are working fine. Now you automatically test them using some automation testing. You use ServiceNow ATF, because ServiceNow also has this capability of testing things automatically. This is the concept of automated test framework. It is not a part of CSA. That is why I'm not covering it right now. You can use that. You can use manual testing approach, or whatever testing approach. The idea is that you will need to test your critical business flows, whatever are most important for your business. They should not be breaking. Then you see what new features are there, which you can show them. If you have any integration with the dev instance to some other dev instance, which might not work after upgrade, so you need to make sure that all the configurations we are doing, are you redoing them properly? Have you reconfigured them accordingly? Documentations update. For example, earlier there was a different menu from where you could create an incident. Now after this release, they've changed the menu completely. It reads differently, it looks differently. In that case, you need to ensure that you inform your end users. And how will you do that? You update the documentations, your internal documentations which are given to end users in terms of the user guides, and tell them that this has been changed. So please make a note of this change, and this is how you have to do it after it gets upgraded. Maybe you want to clear a cache, you want to clear cookies, history, whatever. These are sometimes expected things to do after an upgrade, right? Then there is a concept of ServiceNow configuration review. Internally in ServiceNow, you can do that. You have a concept of upgrade monitor. For example, if I go to ServiceNow, you can see upgrade history and you can see upgrade monitor also, right? So upgrade center, the upgrade monitor was the previous thing, which is legacy now. Now you have upgrade center. So whatever you have done, it will show you that. Okay, is it all intact? Am I facing any upgrades? So you can plan the entire thing here. So it also tells you the full checklist. Okay, what is expected? For example, if I want to upgrade from Rome patch 5 to San Diego RTP, I can go about it. It will tell me, okay, what all things you need to take care of. These are ATF results, which I showed. So I have not set up ATF so far. Otherwise, it would have shown me, okay, you are all set. Your business flows are working. Just schedule the upgrade. You can schedule the upgrade from here. You have to send communications to the right audience that, okay, do the testing, do the QA, do the UAT, give a sign off on all those things. You need to ensure your change management system is in place, that you've raised the right changes in the system to ensure that everybody is aware that this is happening. They are all downtime. If there isn't downtime, please communicate to your audience. There is one more important thing. Is sometimes what happens is if you are cloning from production to dev and you had some discovery work going on in dev, you were exploring something using some plugins, all those plugins will be disabled because you have cloned your production to dev. So you will need to reinstall those plugins. So whatever you have done, just take a backup before that, reinstall plugins, and then restore the backup again for those things. That is very important because I've seen this happening multiple times in my experience, that you had more than 5 or 10 plugins in your dev which were not in production because they were being tested there. So you have to ensure that you have reinstalled those plugins. Any custom applications you have developed, reinstall them back, move your update sets back to production, and ensure that you have a post go live support. For example, you've done the release, now you want to do a support there for some time, for 1 or 2 days, that okay, anything goes wrong, we are on high alert. We will communicate if there is a problem, we'll solve a problem immediately. So the basic SDLC cycle, to be honest, I'm talking about here. This is not something specific to ServiceNow. This is something which is applicable for any platform. However, from ServiceNow perspective, they said you have something called upgrade preview, you have upgrade history, you have upgrade monitor, you have so many things in system itself, which allows you to do that. Yeah. So yeah, this is where I was talking about. These are things you have to take care while you're upgrading your instance from one version to another. Any questions on that? And there is one more thing which I just want to talk about. Yeah, there is something that you might have one of these scenarios. This is point number 10 is very important. And it is important from a developer perspective or an architect perspective rather. There are 3 instances, 3 cases which you can have that. And so you have a plan for production upgrade. So you'll upgrade dev first, then you'll upgrade test, then you'll upgrade your non-UAT environment, then you'll upgrade a production environment. So any development and testing is frozen unless production upgrade. This is the easiest scenario, but this is the most rare scenario because nobody stops a development unless you upgrade in production, because it generally takes you 1 month to upgrade in production because you do your dev upgrade, you plan your test upgrade, you go for those testing sign-offs, you do the test cases, you ensure everything working fine, you ensure those new features are also working fine. That is why it takes time to upgrade production. So this scenario generally is not in reality, but this is the most easy. This is the easiest scenario you can have. In this case, you don't have any problem. You have a situation where continued development testing activities need to continue sub-production instance while upgrade. Remediation testing activities are performed parallel on other instance. So you are still doing development in the dev environment. So in that case, you need to ensure that you have your backups properly handy so that you can restore them immediately, right? And one more thing is generally you upgrade from one same version. Whenever you are pushing your update sets, ensure that you have the same versions, San Diego to San Diego, unless you are upgrading an instance. So upgrading is a different thing. Upgrading is in place upgrade, which means you schedule an upgrade in ServiceNow High portal and you tell them, okay, I am ready for this upgrade this time. And it will be automatically, you don't have to do anything there in terms of upgrade. It is in place upgrade, which means an existing instance will be upgraded now. When you migrate things from one to another, that is where you use update sets. So for example, if you are doing some development testing still in your development environment after upgrade, you need to ensure that you have taken the backups of those sets and you are now pushing it in production once it is upgraded also to the latest version. Third option is once the final upgrade to your production instance is complete, the cloning of a final production instance or instance will wait until after the production upgrade is complete. So you will not immediately do a clone from production to dev because you are doing some activities in a dev. So you'll wait for some time unless you push all of those activities from dev to production or to higher environments, then only you should be doing the production upgrade. So now, and this cloning is very important. So whenever you are all settled, you've done your basic release cycles, you've done the upgrades, you should always clone back your production to dev. So whatever development you're doing now is again in sync with production and your sys IDs remain intact. So these are very important steps to take care of. Generally, your upgrade plan is not as a part of CSF training, but I just thought that because we're covering the migration thing, so we should be covering this as well, just to give you a high level. So I think generally we go through each and every step when we do this in real life, but I don't want to go to each and every step. I have just told you a high level your pointers which you need to take care of whenever you do an in-place upgrade from one version to another, which you do quite often. As I said, twice in a year is general expectation here, right? Do you have any questions in migrations, integrations, upgrades? We're all good.
Yes, Alok, all good.
Thank you very much. We'll stop for today and we will